I was starting. All right. I've been waiting for this, and I purposely kept quiet because rumors are CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, they on their way back to wrestling.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yes! What you gonna do? 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 What you gonna do?
Oh yeah. All right, somebody got let in the door because I accidentally left it on public. Well, somebody gets a front row seat and be the first viewer. Welcome to this episode of the Wrestling Realm Now podcast, episode 12. What's up, bro? How you feeling?
I'm chilling. I'm chilling, bro.
Now, StreamYard did it again. You know, I'm gonna keep going until they get this right. That whole music stuff.
It's weird. I'm trying to jam out and groove to the theme, and it just speeds everything up.
Exactly. You know, see, and that's not staying in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I used to get in trouble for that. Speeding up the song too fast, man. You know, my phone would be playing boom, boom, boom. Slow down. And don't let the shouting music come on.
And you get excited when you play John. You start getting excited when you start playing. You be like, "Oh, there you go. You ready to start this guy." Gotta reel you back in.
Yeah. This is what I tell people. See, this is the reason why. See, like, folks, the real Dwayne Allen is literally the only person who's ever been behind video who's actually like captured the moment the way I would capture it. And him and shout out to Hugh Diddy.
This is you saying stuff like that make people not like me.
What?
Nope, it's happening live in front of an audience of one. You say stuff like that, and then when people meet me, they roll their eyes at me, and I'm like, "Why this person beefing?" Because Brian talks about me this way, but you don't want to talk about nobody else that way. This is what happens.
No, I'm saying though, like you and Hugh, you know, but you was the first person because you was doing the videos and stuff longer, and I'll go back and say, "Yo, that's what I'm talking about." All those years, and that was like the 8th anniversary it came to. So 7 previous years, the person who was doing the video never got the moments. You know, it was just standing.
You just kind of sit. Yeah, that's exactly what he was. Stand with the hard camera, set it up, play, and then move here, move there.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man. You know, we back second week in a row. You know, y'all. So this week, you know, it's been a lot of talk about the Attitude Era, right?
Okay,
on
sure.
Media.
Right.
And it's funny because I was talking to the Public Enemies podcast on Twitter the other day, and I said, "Look, I'm a fan, but y'all always be getting on the Attitude Era. Y'all got to chill." And it was like, "Nah, man, you know, so it was fun banter, right?" So what I'm gonna do, because season 3 only had a very limited audience, because YouTube decided to whatever, right?
It was out. That's not. Well, we got a little overzealous with the editing.
But you can't stop the greatness of the wrestling realm. So we're going to drop that this week. So for those who may have missed it, you know, we got new fans, obviously. That was in 2013. We're going to drop that special Throwback Thursday. So they're going to get 2 straight days of the wrestling realm, or a day and a half, because this is going to come out early on late Tuesday night. But they're going to get 2 days of the wrestling realm this week. So I'm excited. But here's the thing. Spoiler alert. You called a lot of stuff.
I did. I was just about to say, like, I can't wait to go back and see what I said about it. Because I remember that show, and I remember There was a lot said. It was a lot of. Are we talking about highlights? It's not like it's a new show, but what can we speak on? What can't we speak on?
So, well, I mean, we can speak on whatever. You know, the show starts off with us just kind of, mind you, this is the Shield just coming in. So we hit on them because it was the biggest thing in wrestling at the time, right?
That was kind of what I was alluding to. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we went and celebrated the Attitude Era with making some comparisons of some of the characters then versus the characters now. Like I even compared Chris Benoit and Daniel Bryan, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, this is before like Daniel Bryan was like a guy I liked, but this is before he had like became my favorite when we recorded that. You know, and it was frankly what happened a few months later. But I was like, wow, like just watching it. But I have to say the production was still good considering we was fresh out of college, so we was real eager to, you know, kind of get those bells and whistles going.
Yeah, that was like a week before graduation. We were like, look, we got a week left. We got access to the facilities, and there's nothing else left for us to do. So yeah, that was the first time we were able to go in there and shoot the show in the new format that we always wanted to do.
Yeah,
like green screen, you know, because the TV studio we were in had just the full wall was green screen. That was the year they painted it.
Yeah,
it was, you know, it was completely. They were in transition and they completely clean. And we just, you know, all the TV studio stuff was set up. So we set up our mics and the camera, and you know, back in those days we had full access to the studio. It was a stressful time during that time period because, you know, Real was creeping up on us, you know, heavy. So we were trying to figure out what was next. And did we know you were leaving?
No, not at all. You know, okay. Before NABJ, and
you were loading up for NABJ.
Yeah.
So, that was you were loading up for NABJ.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, look, man, we have time, because I don't think our schedules were even on the same wavelength even senior year. Even when you weren't working at Best Buy full time, we were never really in the same place at the same time all the time senior year.
But that was the first semester. The second semester, you convinced me to quit.
Yeah, okay, so that's probably I don't know why I feel like that it was earlier than that, but I guess it was only that one. We did a lot that one freaking year, but no, it couldn't have been.
No, so listen, like the first year, so we met it was 3 years we were there together, 3 years together, but technically 2.5 semesters, right? The first time was spring of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we was in the process of creating the Wrestling Realm. So then fall of 2011. And then spring of 2012. Spring of 2012 is WrestleMania. That's when the infamous Andre, Omar, Bryan's WrestleMania trip.
Yes.
And you and Redacted. So then that was where we was heavy into the Wrestling Realm. Like every day or every week there was a show. And then if you remember, it was the first semester. It was around the time I remember we was recording the night Whitney Houston died, and at that time we was still in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then you remember, shout out to Danielle. We always give her props. We did a little skit in one of the classes, and she started saying Whitney Dallas.
Yeah, Glasby Millington.
Yeah.
So that was the final. That project was that final project, wasn't it, for that class?
Wait a minute.
I don't know.
I'm tripping. Wichita wasn't there yet. Whitney Houston wasn't there yet. She just played off words because that was in spring of 2011. Yeah. But then
got all the dates in his head. I don't.
But yeah, all of spring of 2012 and fall of 2012 was heavy Wrestling Realm. We talking, you know, every week there was a show, and then I think we kind of got away from the skits a little bit. And then you remember spring of 2012 was the whole Just Bring It stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. See, that was because it was, man, it's blurry.
Yeah, we was like the way we're going now, we was going. And it was just, we never really took time to like smell the roses.
And I think that's what it was. I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't smelled the roses in almost 10 years. I'm just starting to smell them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So then spring of 2012 is when that's when we hit the road to go to shows. I'm talking Ring of Honor shows.
That was 2012.
Yeah, that's Kevin Steen's in them year.
Okay,
because January 2012 was when they had the whole. That was their first show.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we met Glenn, and we had knew Corey and Doc, but that's when we met Glenn at the Ring of Honor show.
Are you sure Ring of Honor show we met Glenn? I thought we met him at RCW.
We met Corey and Doc at RCW with Virgil. Glenn wasn't there.
Okay, Glenn wasn't there. You're right. Because it was who they with? They were with somebody else.
No, it was just them two.
When I did the promo with the zip up Batman hoodie?
That was you and Brandon. So it was them three, you and Brandon.
Okay.
And and me. So that meant Hugh or Steve was filming. It had to be Hugh. Yeah, it was Hugh.
Was it Hugh? Was he with us?
Yeah, he was with us that day.
Yeah, I don't remember Steve or going with us to like the indie shows. I remember like the big shows.
Right. Yeah, I just remember. Okay. Yeah. So and then we fast forward to because it was the first show we went to was a Monday Night Raw in the week before the pipe bomb. So that's 2011. You remember when CM Punk started doing angel wings in the ring?
Yes.
That was the first Raw, the first time we ever went to the show together. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember it was weird because I was like, so why does he want a title shot? He was just with Nexus, and then, so then by the time fall of 2012 came, that's when we started to do stuff with RCW. They started telling us, Morgan tells us we can't use that as an internship. And then we go.
You know how crazy this is. I was about to say who was Morgan, but I forgot. Like, I'm spacing out, man.
Yeah, Morgan State says no internship, and then that's when we just went into rebel mode. I'm wearing wrestling t-shirts.
Who told us no? Call them out. Who's
Miss Valentine.
Okay,
and Dr. Capano. Dr. Capano looked like I was crazy. Love her to death. Professor Jordan, same thing. And she's a great one. Shout out to her in her retirement. But she told us no too.
Okay, all right.
But in all fairness, if we're gonna say something negative, we do have to say something positive about her. And that was after our senior project, which they gave us an 89. But then you remember when they had us do those mock interviews, she had like pulled both of us aside, like, look, I want y'all to get jobs. Like these people are hiring, and I think y'all can work there like right away after graduating. So I give her props for that. And she was great to us at NABJ. But
no, absolutely. Yeah, she was a gem. Like, I mean, she's a treasure, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But it was we were pissy in the moment because we were all busy. Like we were like, bro, we don't have time for this internship because it was dumb. Because I think they limited it anyway. Like I don't think they made it a requirement.
Yeah, and we was working. Like we were like it was job.
We were like, bro, we don't like it's nah. Like I was still bouncing, I think.
Yeah, you were still bouncing. I was working at Best Buy, and just think about this, right? So
that summer I worked at that's all coming.
Yeah, that fall, and mind you, this was a busy fall in Baltimore. Orioles back in the world playoffs, first time since '97.
Right.
Barack Obama going up for re-election. Mm-hmm. Then there was that flood, if you remember. There was Hurricane Sandy. Then there was the Ravens. The Ravens this was their Super Bowl season. Right, so I'm like, it was a blessing.
Oh heck yeah, it was definitely a big. Because I was trying to figure out. See, this is why you gotta have people like you around. Because I was like, yo, I remember it being busy, but I couldn't remember what it was always going on at the time. But you are absolutely right. All that was going on.
We still squeezed episodes in, like here and there.
I don't remember doing the episodes. That's crazy. All I remember was.
I'm tripping. We cut it off right around that time.
That's when we stopped. Like we were like we didn't do anything because it was just too much. Like because before we would, get in, get out, do stuff for the day, try to knock out 1 or 2 shows, maybe 3 on a good day. You would go to work, I would go to class, and vice versa. And
when the Blog Talk, the Dungeon Edition started.
Yeah, because you started doing that during the daytime. You like, I don't know if you changed the schedule or what the deal was, but that's when we couldn't do that. You started doing the podcast. The first that was the first Realm expansion podcast, right?
Yeah, yep.
Because you were doing Perfect Plex on a different network and stuff like that, and you were doing wrestling. So that was our first like brand expansion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So when we started that, and then that. Kind of like I was like, all right, you know what? Focus on work and all that other stuff. And then the next semester, we was
chasing that bag, buddy.
Huh?
We were chasing that bag.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we created the trailer for the documentary, and then that's when that was our final project. We go into 2013, focusing on that, and then we roll into. We wrote down a bunch of shows that we wanted to do, but we was finally able to do that afterwards. Because by then, shout out to Mr. Wickham, just celebrated birthday. He had us busy. Yeah, but we got a camera out of the deal.
Oh my, bruh, yo, yeah, you man, and God rest his soul, Mr. John White and
Shout
Top
out
Dog.
to Mr. John. Yep.
Bro, like I remember y'all got me this urban news project. I'm like, man, who? Yeah, Brian did it. He's doing it, so I need you to do it too. Like, and it was crazy because although we never really received like public recognition for it,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, the people who put us there really like gave us like they put us to work. And when I say it was a grind, it was a grind. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Urban News Project was like these quick, short things. It was centered
I was
around.
checking on your YouTube the other day, and I saw some of your projects.
Man, I'm gonna go back and watch some of it, but I remember it was we were trying to heal those burned bridges when it came to Morgan State media students, and we were kind of like, look, this is the blueprint of where we want students to be, and this is what he was talking about almost 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years from down the line from where we started. And you know, ourselves, and of course, the rest of the Fantastic Four, Jazz and Christina. But that Urban News Project kicked my tail. But we had a final project.
Interned at the Sun as well.
I gotta give you Sun. What else did we? No, it was
good.
And then we not even talk about the short course. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, during our spring break.
Yeah, like because I remember I didn't want to go to the freaking short course because I was like, bro, I'm over. I'm tired. You're like, yo, we ripping and running. We not even doing our own stuff. I'm not doing nothing. And then you're like, oh, I got bad news for you, bro. Remember, Professor Berry Ray called you because he wanted something. I said, yo, they got us. They want us to do everything around here. And like I said, we were trying to. TRDA was still like in its infancy. Like I remember I had just paid almost $500 for 2 boxes of T-shirts. Just, you know what I mean? And that whole process was ugly. Just learning what that even meant. And then, like I said, with the wrestling round, we knew one thing we knew, and you see it now, is like, yo, we knew where we wanted to go. We may not have had it paved, you know, we may not have the resources or the means to get done what we wanted to get done, but we knew we wanted. And it's crazy because you look at 10 years ago, look at all the resources, how easy this is right now. Bro, the 90% of what we're doing now was not even available 10 years ago. You know what I mean? 10 years ago, 8 years ago, however long it was, you know what I mean? Between 2011, 12, 13 up to now. You know, that stuff was not even available. Like it was available, but it was expensive. It wasn't consumer friendly, and it wasn't consumer. It wasn't. We didn't have consumers didn't have easy access to it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's crazy, but like I say, it's. I can't wait till we sit down and we chronicle all the stuff and we put all our business in the streets. But it's going to be fun because we can finally. I'm telling you, it's going to be therapeutic because it's going to we don't. I know I don't for a fact, and it's a problem of mine. But we don't stop and smell the roses because it's like when you locked into a goal where you want to be at, you don't really celebrate the small victories, and you need to. You know what I mean? So we're gonna sit down. We're gonna cover all this stuff. We're gonna celebrate it. We're gonna do what we do, and that's what it is. Like I said, we haven't reached where we wanted to go, right? But the crazy part is we've hit so many milestones. We've had so many testimonies, and it's like, nah, this is worth celebrating. Because I mean, how many people can say they're still around doing the same thing? It's not no rebrand. It's not no 3 or 4 different shows and stuff. It's the same brand. You know what I mean? And mind you, we took 3-4 years off as far as no actual show content, but the best part about it is that we took that time to do something with it. We rebranded, we redeveloped, we re-strategized, and we prepared ourselves to go into what we are finally doing right now. So
I mean, and then and this is what I said, shout out to Andre Melton, who was on the show earlier this year. I said this at his birthday party, like you said before, just keeping us afloat and alive. And that was one of the things that I wanted everybody at the birthday party to understand. Like when you see that brother is loved, I don't want to say was, that brother is loved, and you saw like people really appreciate him. And that was for us, that's what he did. Like, hey y'all, I need the Wrealm on. And we was everywhere. And like you even said, social media, even with Brandon Guy, with the Independent Report, that was another expansion, coming on and doing things. So, and we'll get into that. I know we just spent but that's what we do. It's
20 minutes, because if they don't like it, then sign off. Somebody go listen to
it. Right. But, it's always fun. I know people love to hear these stories. So I can't wait to share and go even in more depth because it's going to be fun. But, to shift gears, we talked about it. At that time, 2 people Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. Man, I try not to get. So I try to stay away from dirt sheets as much as I can, right? Sometimes you're like, you want to know stuff, but at this point, you can't stay away from it because everybody, shout out to D, Damaris Die, who's always sharing a link in the group chat.
Always somebody D or Dre are always gonna drop one in there.
Right. And and it's all love. D, he's a reporter. That's what he does. Make sure y'all follow supporting that on YouTube. But Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, the talk of the town all week has been that they are going to AEW, and I've been the talk of, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me nothing. I'm not believing it till I see it. The real Dwayne Allen. Where do you stand?
Start marking up the time, because this is going to be clip off material. This is going to be clip off material. So
here we go.
I'll say this. Let me start at the top. Began to hear these rumors about Daniel Bryan. Something seemed fishy for a while now. I'll tell you why. Let me give you a chronological order of what I'm about to explain right now. They interviewed Daniel Bryan recently, not recently, but not too long after WrestleMania. He wasn't happy with it, and he was talking about he didn't really feel he needed to be in it, and so on and so forth. I didn't pay any mind. I'm like, Daniel Bryan, this is second, third time you've been in a main event WrestleMania. You deserve to be there. They finally give you your flowers. Okay, cool. Bam. There's this report of, well, Daniel Bryan's he's gonna table talks about re-signing, his contract and take some time off to heal up. Understandable. Concussion, stuff like that. Sure. Makes sense. Then, the what ifs come out. Still don't pay it any mind. Trust me. Stay with me, folks. I'm going somewhere. Trust me. So then there's flat out reports. Daniel Bryan signs with AEW. Not like in talks. Now he's in a meeting. They're like, no, he signed. It's done deal. And I was like, whoa. First, I'm like, no, not buying it, because they said the same thing about Sasha Banks. I said in our group text, I said, look, they said the same thing about Sasha Banks, and she did a whole special on it. When she wasn't around, she didn't respond to anybody. She didn't say anything. She didn't respond to the rumors, and they literally made a WWE special about it. And she sat there and watched all the rumors about her leaving and not staying, and it was all untrue. So I said, okay, this could all be one ploy. I said, if Daniel Bryan is smart, if I'm him, I'd stay away from everything. I would do the same thing. Stay off of everything, and then make your triumphant return to a hero's welcome when you least expect it, because the buzz is out now, because the more and more you don't show up or respond or say anything or involved in any way, shape, or form, there's this mystery going on now, because there's another promotion that can give you a platform just as big as WWE, maybe not in popularity, but it's the same level of platform. Didn't pay any mind. But then the reports came out with Daniel Bryan has officially been removed from WWE merchandise. Daniel Bryan has officially been moved from WWE to, they're like, oh, okay, wait a minute now. I know we don't do dirt sheets, but you start to tell yourself, well, why else would this happen? The talks with AEW began to be like, oh boy, this might be serious. They have a big show coming up at Arthur Ashe Stadium in New York, probably one of the biggest stadiums that nobody probably paid any mind, because you have Madison Square Garden, you have Barclays, two places they just can't go, especially after that debacle with New Japan. New Japan was set to have a lot of those AEW guys when they were still in current partnership with Ring of Honor, so that was supposed to be a statement pay-per-view. You know what I mean? Sell out 10,000 strong. And I think fans still came out, but it wasn't the show that they wanted to be, because at that point AEW began to hit its stride, and that's something you probably planned a year and ahead. Now all of a sudden it was taken away from you. So they discovered there's another 10,000 square foot arena that happens to be a tennis court or a tennis arena. And AEW has been rumored to have sold that place out, or 10,000, 15,000 strong. I'm like, well, that's going to be huge. In New York. And now all of a sudden there's this talk of, well, this is Daniel Bryan's going to sign with AEW because he wants to wrestle New Japan. And then that's why WWE tried to get that New Japan partnership, because they were trying to appeal to Daniel Bryan. They couldn't get it done. So I was like, okay. I sat back initially. I was like, you know what? I don't like it, because I'm not a big fan of AEW as a show. I love what they're doing. I think AEW is excellent. Right. I think what Tony Khan and them have done is absolutely amazing. It's something that's unheard of. And to me, its biggest asset and its biggest ally is having the budget of a billionaire in your back pocket. You know what I mean? Tony Khan's father is the billionaire, but Tony Khan is no slouch financially. Man, he is a little markish, but you can deal with all those things when you have the financial backing to make your product compete with the WWE, which is the largest wrestling company in the world.
Right.
So Daniel Bryan sits there, and his name is in this conversation. He's not denying anything. There's one of two things that could happen in this situation. You say, okay, well, he could go to AEW, work part-time, you know what I mean, work his partnership and show up in big spots, do less and get paid big money. Sure. AEW needs that because they need more stars. We've seen this conversation before with Eric Bischoff. A lot of people upset AEW's got to keep their mouth shut. They're contradictory because, of course, everybody's pulling up all these quotes where Cody's like, well, we're not going to be pulling a whole bunch of WWE guys. And now a whole bunch of WWE talent is available. And they're too good for you to let them sit on that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The reason I don't watch AEW is because I don't have enough familiar faces to make me engaged to want to watch their whole show. I'll watch a match or two. I can't get through a whole show. Call me when the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers come out, but half the time I can't sit there and stomach it for a whole show. I just can't. It doesn't work for me yet. And the young guys that I want to see and excited are like the Gun Club. You don't get to see them everywhere. It's just like, okay, all right, well. So I really have never gotten into the show. Matt Hardy goes over there. Matt Hardy wasn't what Matt Hardy thought he was going to be. Disappointment. Christian goes over there. Christian, don't want to see him at this stage and wrestling AEW, especially when he's wrestling Jungle Boy and all those other guys. I'm like, well, that's the same spot you'd have had in the WWE if they could have come to a deal, which I didn't want to see. But this has my attention.
Okay.
Here's why. This is what I began to tell myself. I said, I don't like Daniel Bryan in AEW because I don't trust they're going to do, they're not going to make me want to watch the show, right? When Bret Hart went to WCW, he was booked a certain way, his character a certain way, and that was my favorite wrestler. It didn't make me want to watch what he was doing anymore. That's my favorite wrestler. I'm not interested in what he's doing. He's a weasel. He's not the best there is. He's like this weasel. I was like, that's not Bret Hart. I'm not feeling it. Sure, you watch the matches and enjoy it, but I'm like, I don't think this guy should be IC champion. He should be going toe-to-toe with Hogan and DDP and NWO and Sting, and he should be in that conversation, and he wasn't. So what did I tell myself about Daniel Bryan? My favorite wrestler, AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, 1A, 1B. I began to tell myself, you know what? If Daniel Bryan goes to AEW, then god dang it, the realness is coming with him. AEW it is. Let me tell you why. WWE, I don't forget nothing. They made Daniel Bryan starve. They made that man fight for his food. they made him scratch and claw to be what he is. He's a self-made man, if you ask me. If the Yes Movement is going to AEW, then guess what? We going to AEW. And I'm like, you know what? If they're gonna book this man and put him in these showcases to do what he does best, I'm a Daniel Bryan fan regardless of the company. If they're gonna put him in that spotlight, then guess what? If Christian wasn't good enough for me to really jump the shark. Matt Hardy, I'm not really sure. Don't want to jump, but Daniel Bryan, I can do without CM Punk. I'll touch that in a second. But Daniel Bryan is good enough for me to say, you know what? WWE doesn't own professional wrestling. WWE, you know what? We finally let me acknowledge that we do have a second company that can give us good quality content. They have a partnership with Impact Wrestling, so I get to see the Good Brothers. As much as people don't like the Kenny Omega thing, I'm like, look, Kenny Omega's doing everybody a favor because everybody's getting exposure and they're connected because he's champion of two different companies right now.
I'm actually more interested in what he does on Impact than AEW, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, because it's less of a pony show on Impact. Impact is kind of smaller, it's grittier. Yeah. It's the modern day ECW feel. It's the smaller brand. It's the Island of Misfit Toys. It doesn't compare in popularity to ECW. But it's there and it's good, for what it is. But if Daniel Bryan decides to go to AEW, then by golly, god dang it, guess what? We're going to AEW, and I'm official. It took me a couple of days. Don't get me wrong. It took me some time to be okay with it. But I was like, you know what? Nah, who cares? The WWE the WWE proved they didn't need Daniel Bryan. Because when somebody gets injured and somebody leaves, there's always next man up. We talked about this in the group chat. When Edge went down, CM Punk stepped up. You know what I mean? He began to take that rise. When CM Punk left, you had guys like Daniel Bryan that began to rise. The fans are going to gravitate somebody. When Daniel Bryan went down, Seth Rollins rose up, and then Roman Reigns right behind him, and then Dean the Shield like that. they didn't need him. They proved they don't need him. He doesn't stop or start their ship. The WWE doesn't need Daniel Bryan. AEW needs Daniel Bryan.
I want to jump in there real quick because one of the things that you brought up, Christian, you brought up Matt Hardy. As great as they were, as good workers they weren't phenomenons, right? At one point, they never owned a season. Daniel Bryan owned the winter of 2013 into the spring of 2014. You know, that whole Yes movement was phenomenal. I mean, you can even say the summer beforehand when he was going against Cena. That's when you saw it was like, okay, this guy's coming, you know, and him and Cena went out there, put on an incredible match. They snatched the title from him. And it's funny because you say, I don't forget things. I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, they dangled their carrot over, you know, in front of him. And I know you already go touch on CM Punk, but he's another one. He had the summer of Punk in 2011. He had a 434-day title reign. That's something that makes these people game changers that, quite frankly, if Daniel Bryan and CM Punk can't elevate AEW to the point where they're bringing in a consistent million fan base, I don't know what can. What is your thoughts on CM Punk?
CM Punk is tricky because CM Punk is always calculated when it comes to these types of things. He likes to play these types of games historically. I don't know how many times we've had conversations about CM Punk possibly returning and what he's going to do, and then he kind of capitalized that. CM Punk is a money grab. Yeah. He's made it very clear. I'm not passionate about the sport of professional wrestling anymore, so that's not going to be enough to get me to come back. It's about the money. He's a businessman at this point. He's like, if it's good, that's why he came back. He did the WWE show on Fox. What was it called? Do you remember what it was called? With Renee Young and Kristen and Mark Henry.
I want to say it was Superstars, but it wasn't that. But
it was the show that they did, the primetime show they did for Fox Sports.
And I was away. I remember that night. I fell asleep, like I dozed off, and then I like woke up and I was away for work, and I remember getting a bunch of texts. Did you just see what happened? And it was like a big deal, but then it faded.
Yeah, like he came in and they were like, "Oh, good, CM Punk returns to WWE." He's like, "Well, actually, I work for Fox, so it doesn't make a difference, and I can pretty much talk about the product as honest as I want to." And that's all I was looking for, and it's about the money. CM Punk at this point understands the wrestling business, which he's smart. That's why he never jumped on the anti-WWE AEW bandwagon. He's like, "Yeah, this is all cute and all, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. It's not about the wrestling business," because he's going to be honest in his observation and his his evaluation of AEW where they are, right? AEW does not even doing TNA numbers from a couple of years ago, so it's not like Eric Bischoff reminds us of this every time. If you listen to his podcast with Bruce Pritchard, 83 Weeks, he says, "Look, let's not give them their flowers too early. Like they're not even doing numbers that scratch the surface of TNA wrestling right now." So and TNA wrestling was nothing, it wasn't a joke. TNA wrestling at their highest had 3 million followers, and it was still a joke in comparison to WWE as far as television is concerned. So let's not think that they're doing something amazing because they got 800,000 people watching their product. And let's stop. And his thing was always, well, let's also stop comparing to the WCW because we're not even in the same wheel game. We're not in the same ballpark. CM Punk made it very clear he'll do anything for the right amount of money. And what I'm concerned is AEW desperate to try to bring out to the product. Now you gotta do something, right? Yeah. But my biggest fear is that when you work for WWE, you learn the business of professional wrestling. It can get ugly. You understand the business. That's why Sasha Banks, she made that very clear when she talked about the business of professional wrestling, why she did what she did. That's why she said, and then she in her special, her WWE Network special, and then she verified that same thing when she was talking about on Austin's podcast. Look, I would have been happy to be here before, but now I understand the business. So I can make demands now that I know for a fact this man's going to come through for me. Because if he didn't, I wouldn't be here right now. And she's like, and that's business. And I was like, phew. Shorty invented some things. And she understands how it works now. And McMahon respects that because he's a cutthroat businessman. You can't be a billionaire and you don't have some type of cutthroat business mentality unless you're LeBron James. He don't seem like a cutthroat kind of guy. I don't know. LeBron, I don't know.
He got people around him too.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So he's got people managing his ass. He's not it's not his business conglomerate technically with his hands on it. So my biggest fear is, sure, I don't know if the CM Punk stuff is legit or not. It seems less likely Daniel Bryan, it's adding up a little bit. Now, this could be one big swerve with Daniel Bryan because I never talked to none of them. I don't know how this got out and somebody ran with it, but he could have the biggest Royal Rumble pop of all time, or like because until he debuts, or until he shows that, or this could be a ploy. Like if I'm Daniel Bryan and I'm a professional wrestler and I'm trying to keep this all, I'm protecting the business because they're trying to go back to an age where they're going back to that. Like, look, we've already exposed the business for what it is. And we know that, but how do we keep the mystery and the fun still a part of what we're doing, which is bringing back excitement to a live audience, because that's the backbone of what modern day sports entertainment, professional wrestling really is at the end of the day, right? Yep. It's the audience is just coming back. You know, people are looking for surprises left and right. It would blow everybody's mind if Daniel Bryan just pops up out of nowhere. If I'm Daniel Bryan, I'm telling him, look, I'm not. Here's what I want to do. I'm talking to Vince McMahon only. You know, because you're not going to convince me that Vince McMahon didn't make one last dive to negotiate with Daniel Bryan to keep him there, because he always does. If he did it with FTR, if he did it with Sasha Banks, he's going to do it with Daniel Bryan. Because the reports would make it seem like, oh, they just let Daniel Bryan go because they couldn't come to a deal. I can understand Christian, because that's how that sounds with him, because that's how he always was treated. You know, I'm not going to believe that with a Daniel Bryan, even though they don't need him. You know, Vince is not that cutthroat. He does cares about his guys. He still texts people that he released happy birthday and stuff like that personally. Zack Ryder said that on his podcast, Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. Vince, text him happy birthday.
The new GCW champion, by the way.
Wow. Yeah, that's so you're not gonna convince me otherwise. So it's not like, so if the only way, if Daniel Bryan, if they couldn't come to a deal, it was either one, he was already ready to leave. He made up in his mind what he wanted to do, and so on. So we don't know that, but at the end of the day, we don't know if any of that's true at all. Like I said, I would tell Vince, look, take me off everything. Treat me as if I'm not, because I want sometimes you have to leave and show what you can do to be valued again. And now you can do that, because happened with Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest superstars of all time, got booed at a Royal Rumble. And he was smart enough to take his brand out of WWE and around the world for, I don't know, how long was he going? Who knows?
Yeah, because I forgot he was on All In.
Yeah, he was Mexico. He was all in. Like, he left. Rey Mysterio wasn't a part of the brand, and he came back and he got a hero's welcome, because he brings value to what he does now, because at one point he wasn't appreciated because they had a youth movement. They had to start building new stars, and sometimes there's no room for the old dogs. Chris Jericho's another one, 50 years old. He's a celebrated legend. They're gonna be knocking down his door to bring him back to WWE now. That's the man's 50 years old. What he's only going to bring but so much, but he has taken his brand and made it valuable again. Sometimes you got to do that in this business, and Daniel Bryan may be one of them. He may have to say, look, I got to take my brand and make it valuable again. I got to make you want what I bring to the table. I got to show you. And sometimes that means drawing your own money around the world and other promotions and other companies. One thing I noticed from all of these superstars, if they do not bash WWE, they're not mad. They're just doing business. Matt Hardy is the only one that bragged about AEW being the future of the wrestling business. I said, you're the only one, Matt Hardy. and even what you brought to the table didn't work. I love Matt Hardy, but sometimes you left to your own devices don't work out too well. It worked on the indies, but I don't know what's happened to him. I should have been excited to see Christian versus Matt Hardy, and I wasn't. I still haven't even seen the match. I'm just like, bro, like this would have been a dream match on the independents almost.
Yeah.
In 2015, 16.
Yep, heck yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that'd have been huge. It would have been a big deal, but it's like, I don't always trust this idea of creativity. Now, that with some of the younger superstars like the Andrade still not being booked right, he can't speak English. You can't cut promos. That's why I keep giving him managers.
He got his second manager already in AEW.
He comes out there and he does this, and he thinks he's played by. I said, bro, you just weren't ready, and you didn't want to wait your turn. Because I'm looking at him like, bro, you just weren't ready. Like, it's like, and he had a debut. What is he doing since his debut? Tell me what he's done.
Nothing.
Right. Like, it's not.
And stood in the ring.
Malachi Black is one that may be in a good space because he's a creative person as it is.
Yeah.
He did his own vignette, his own movie, he did his own story. He is a storyteller.
You just brought up something though. You just talked about it, and that could be with him making his brand valuable.
And that's what's necessary. You got to show. Sometimes they don't want to give you the credit or the opportunity. You have to show them. Malachi Black is going to be a problem. I said, if they let him tell his story his way, man, I can't promise you what you're going to get in the ring, but they're going to give him the space to do the promos. They're going to give him the space to do the vignettes and all that other kind of stuff. Now, the delivery And the matchups, we're not really sure about that. But I remember one thing, they asked Kenny Omega about CM Punk and Daniel Bryan specifically. And one thing he said is, his Kenny Omega is so smart. I'm a huge Kenny Omega fan. It's finally good to have him back, like Kenny Omega.
Yeah, not the other guy.
Not that backseat tag team guy. And, I was like, no, that's not Kenny
He
Omega.
still ain't better than Randy Orton, though.
No, come on now. Nobody's better than Randy Orton. In this space, he answered the question so professionally. He said, yeah, so what are you about CM Punk and Daniel Bryan? He's like, look, clearly guys of that magnitude is an exciting idea because the stories. Kenny Omega is a WWE guy, right? But Kenny Omega knows how to tell story in the ring because in New Japan, you don't have a whole lot of time to tell your story through vignettes and promos and stuff. They still book New Japan like it's a sport. So you're going to have a press conference. You're going to have a few minutes on the mic. And the way the Japanese audience responds to what's going on in the ring, it's in a respectful tone, not in a way that interacts or dictates what happens next. See, in American professional wrestling, how the audience reacts dictates what happens next. In Japan, there's a common courtesy amongst fans when to express yourself and when not to express themselves, when to show congratulations, when to show displeasure. And that's pretty uniform throughout everything that you do. That's not going to change or shift anything in regards to what goes on inside the ring. You know what I mean? Now, granted, outside the ring and popularity and that stuff dictates who's up next, but it's different for the American audience. So you have to be able to tell your story inside. That's why it's so hard hitting and so gut wrenching, because they got to do so much to incite so much drama in what you're doing inside the ring to make sure that the masses watching are just hooked in. That's what makes New Japan so different.
Right.
That's where Kenny Omega is born and bred. That's where he comes from. And you can tell that he tries to do that so much in AEW with so much, but there's so much other stuff that goes on, the build-ups and things like that. And it's like, man, he approached the situation in a way to say, look, I'm looking forward to being able to tell these stories inside the ring, because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And I was like, oh, that's not good for Tony Khan, because what he's talking about is sports entertainment. You know what I mean? I was like, uh-oh, Tony Khan better be careful. I said, because Kenny Omega is talking about sports entertainment. Guys like CM Punk, they're going to know how to tell those stories in the ring. Guys like Daniel Bryan, they're going to know how to tell those stories in the ring. And I think if those are all dream matchups that we have not seen yet, that, we only assume was either supposed to happen or probably happened in their younger years. You know what I mean? So, man, I mean, the opportunities are endless. I don't trust the booking. You don't know, but I'm willing to give it a chance. It's still a relatively new company. Yeah. In all fairness, I don't have to be a fan of it to, not give it its credit and, to give credit where it's due. But it's just like, at the end of the day, man, I'm.
You said it last week, though. It feels good to be excited about wrestling.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, cool, listen, I want to celebrate two companies, but I don't like two forms of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's not. It's cool, but it's not all that great. And I'm trying to get back into it. I really am, and hopefully, this gives me a reason to be more invested in their product and kind of jump into it. Like I said, I'm sure if I go to like a live show, I'll enjoy myself.
Yeah.
I'm starting. I mean, I'm loving Sting's involvement. I like what they're doing with this. There's still no young superstar that makes me go, oh man, he's up next. Darby Allin is soaring in popularity. Guys like your guys, the Jurassic Park, Lucha Express,
whatever.
they're storming in popularity, because the first step is conquering the wrestling audience.
Yeah,
right.
I give him that. Oh man, I can't hear you. There we go.
Hold on, yeah. Sorry, that's my phone ringing. And then the next is crossover appeal. You know what I mean? So that's the first step. It seems like they're carving their niche in the wrestling world. You know what I mean? Now they're trying to expand that and grow that, and I'm here for it. Like I said, especially if guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk are going over there. CM Punk not so much, but Daniel Bryan, if the F movement goes, then I go too.
So we're gonna see you with an AEW shirt on next.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait for them to come back in this area. I can't wait for them to come back in this area, because here's the biggest thing that I'm excited about out of everything, right?
Yeah.
Music. both of them own their music, or not. No, they don't own. They're not Jim Johnson CFOs or whoever's doing. I forgot.
Yeah.
So you imagine. You said Arthur Ashe Stadium. You imagine if Flight of the Valkyries play there. People are going to go nuts.
Yeah, they're
If
gonna lose it.
Cult of Personality play,
They're
you
gonna go
know,
nuts.
it's going to be crazy. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like I said, I'm trying. I'm just trying to be patient. It's kind of like
That's I'm doing the same thing. Like, all right,
yeah,
let's see what you got. Let's see what
because
you got.
I remember one time I was really disappointed. And it's two times signings, right? Was when Kurt Angle decided to go back to TNA instead of going to WWE. And this was like 2014. And shout out to my boy Kahar. I remember walking around at work and then news came, and I felt so hurt, like wrestler hurt. Like I thought he was coming home,
Yeah.
And then when Kenny Omega decided to go to AEW instead of coming to WWE, I was like, come on, because I mean, you know me, I'm a WWE guy, but AEW has become a part of my weekly rotation. It's going to be on. It's something I'm going to watch. I watched it over the playoffs, so that's telling you something. It'll also help the Lakers wasn't in it, but so I give them their props. They're doing what they're supposed to do, but let's see what happens. Let's see. I don't think, but then again, I don't know, but I don't think they can mess this up. If they get those guys, I don't think they can mess up. Just don't have them. Do they got to go through Cody first? Because it seems like that's
usually everybody got to go through Cody. That's usually, if you're a new face, you got to go through Cody. But
it's like he's already dealing with Malachi Black. So can we and do you? I don't know.
Here's what I'm afraid of long term, and this is why I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it may hurt their product long term, because I'm telling you, these WWE guys, they're not there for the company. They're not there to build this company and make it the best company in the world. They're not. They're there for the paycheck, man. They're like, dude, he's doing what? He's paying how much? Kevin Nash and them did the same thing. They signed WWE without the intention of putting Vince out of business. They're like, yo, he's paying us how much? He gonna pay us that much money to do how many dates? 180. Usually we're on the road to 340 days a year. You talking about 180 dates for that much money? Oh yeah, I'm gone. And everybody's like, okay, Vince, well, if you don't want to pay me, somebody else will. And I say, oh look, I'm an ex-WWF guy. WCW going.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, it's just phone going in and out. So it's I'm like, you let CM Punk in, he gonna tear your locker room to shreds. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Bryan, they messed up by letting Big Show and all them guys go over there, because when Tony Khan tried to go to war with WWE, they ruined it. You know what I mean? They ruined it, because he sat there and said, oh yeah, Big Show came here because he believes this is the best wrestling company in the world. And then Big Show has an interview the next day, like, oh no, I just came over because Vince thought it was a good idea. Listen, Vince is no stranger. This is old school. Vince is no stranger to letting guys go. You know what I mean? Vince has no problem. Go ahead and get over, and I'll come steal you right back. You know what I mean? So trust me, this isn't new. And I know he's not shaking his boots, because it's like, why not? Go get over with another company, and then when your contract is up, I'm going to make you an offer that you can't refuse. And then I benefited, and I don't have to do the work. He gave Bret Hart away. Like, look, you might as well just go over there now. Because if he didn't, there would be no Rock, there'd be no Austin. Because he would still feel loyalty to the guy that took him through the new generation. But the businessman,
especially in that day and age, when he was losing,
the businessman had to make a decision to keep food on the table. You know what I mean? And that, Bret's loyalty got caught up in a transition, and it's not his fault. And I don't blame him, but at the same time, you don't get Rock Austin if Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart are both still in the WWF at the time. And unfortunately, sometimes it takes for guys to have to go, and then you can come back later. And it's just, these guys are wrestling and they're 45 and 50 years old. It's when the time is right, you'll be asked to come back. Look at RVD. RVD made his rounds, and all the way into his late age, and then now he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So,
business is business. Can't be too invested in companies, but it's not a bad thing. Rey Mysterio is another one. He's having the run of his life, and his contract had recently come up before the pandemic. He's like, no, I'm the only reason I'm sticking around is because I've done everything already. Like, I'm not chasing glory anymore. It's not about the cheap pop and like my son is getting in the business, and they're gonna give him a ticket to the top if I stick around. You know,
yeah. I mean, he's tag team champions.
he's like, I can be the one to help my son on the road. I can be the one to help show him stuff. It's a dream come true for him. So when Ray's like, okay, I'm ready to retire. I can handle my son. You're in good hands, buddy. He can go ahead, and he's having the time of his life because he's still Rey Mysterio, and now he can share that with his son. And then he's a top guy regardless of the situation. So you know what I mean. That it's once you get that independent stuff out your system and trying to be important. Some guys want to be valued. They want to have an input with like Matt Hardy, which I respect. And Christian the same way. I still think he should have. He could be doing the same thing in WWE now that he's doing in freaking AEW. But like I said, they couldn't come to a deal. They didn't want to, whatever. Tony Khan's paying big money for legends and people that he's a fan of. Why not? It's a business. Yeah. I want my respect, so I got to make you respect me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Let's move on real quick before we get out of here. A couple of things. Matter of fact, let's take a quick break because we didn't even take a break. We got shows to promote. All right. So, I'm taking off next week. I'm going to be on vacation. So, if the realness feels like it, he'll do a realness reacts. But
I feel like it. Y'all know me.
So, I'm going to give him a preview because my birthday coming up. And I'm going to drop my top 5 championships right on that week. So that'll come out. So y'all still gonna get a show next week. You just won't get Wrestling Realm now. Now, stay tuned to our YouTube channel because we might have a couple of YouTube shorts. But here's a quick preview into the next episode. So this is a brand new one. Just added this to the collection as of this taping 2 days ago. So I'm very excited about this. When this debuted on television. All right, it sounded like that clip was muted. I couldn't hear nothing.
Did you tap the screen? Because I tapped the screen, I heard it.
I'm on my computer. You know what? It might have came through. Well, anyway, we back.
Wow, that was a short clip. Like I literally left the screen.
Well, because I don't know if the headphones sit. Huh?
Don't even trip. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah. So y'all make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. Y'all see it as he just said. Man, oh man. So I want to ask you about this because there's been this talk. First of all, congrats to Nikki Kross, brand new champion. We did the show. We said, how, about her, didn't think the cash-in was going to happen that soon. I thought it was phenomenal. Superhero. Now, that same night on Monday Night Raw, Karrion Kross made his debut and the people was unhappy. And I'm sitting there, Dwayne, and I'm like, why are people so mad? First of all, he lost to Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy's a top guy. No matter which way you look at it, he's a top guy. If he was an AEW, he'd probably be one, he'd be further along than Matt, in my opinion. And I like Matt better. But it's the truth. Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, So, but the thing is, the people, like everybody complaining, like, did y'all not look and pay attention to the small thing? He didn't pin him clean. He cheated to win. So that kind of, in a sense, kind of protects him, right? Now, shout out to Heel Will Mahoney, who brought up something on Twitter today from the Big Gold Belt podcast, right? Jeff Hardy's music is more over than Karrion Kross.
Yep.
Jeff Hardy, I was sitting there, and we had just got finished recording this thing for NABJ. And I'm sitting there watching it raw while we were on the phone. And I'm like, he's got no more words back. We just talked about the importance of wrestling music. We did a whole conversation about that in a previous episode. The importance of music. Jeff Hardy said he wanted this music back when the fans came. And it seems as if the fans were more in tune to it. Now, you look at that audience, they didn't seem to mind Karrion Kross. And that's the thing why I always tell people about the IWC. IWC complains and complains and complains. But at the end of the day, y'all ain't paying. And they might try to make it seem like that, but they go complain, but they're not the ones putting money in his pockets.
I know. I know one thing. I'm going to cut you off. Please hold your thought. I don't want you to lose it. But
I'm going to lose this one.
If he didn't come out there with that NXT championship, have that artist wouldn't know who the heck he was.
Boom! And then last but not least, like I said, because you've just right into the point I'm about to make, the mystique of Karrion Kross is gone. And, he beat Keith Lee, who another person, I'm not even sure what's going on with him, this past Monday on Raw. And it was kind of like, Keith Lee goes from losing to Bobby Lashley in a respectable match. But, we know what Bobby Lashley is there to do. He essentially beat both of his Hurt Business brothers. Then, I mean, he pinned them and stacked them. But on a Monday Night Raw type of match, they got some offense in.
Mm-hmm.
But then Keith Lee loses to Karrion Kross. So both of these NXT guys, I don't know. Like, I know that this was an NXT main event before, which, to be honest with you, wasn't like considering all the main events for the championship that I had got before.
Mm-hmm.
This is on that lower tier. And my boy Brian ain't lying. He told me Keith last year at the end of the year, he said he felt that Keith Lee would be future endeavors soon. I'm not going to go that far, but right now I'm not seeing nothing in these two guys. They're not what I saw when Kevin Owens made his debut on the main roster. What do you think?
We can't keep comparing these new NXT guys to the old NXT guys because the old NXT guys had almost 12, 13 years on independence.
That's fair. Yeah.
And they were guys that they went so hard because we were almost convinced that there was no change in the WWE. These guys would never even get signed or have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
NXT kind of changed that because that became kind of like WWE's independent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then all the top independent guys said, well, shoot, let's just go to their independent and show off. Triple H is running the show, and it created this worldwide phenomenon that, is and was always developmental, but turned itself into a third brand, Now that these other guys, guys like Keith Lee and them, that don't get me wrong, and Karrion Kross, they were big independent guys as well. But we're not talking about, they weren't big time independent guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't guys, in big shows like Ring of Honor and all them. Like they just weren't. They didn't have that. I don't know. It's tough to call it. It's just tough to call it. But it's that.
I saw something online the other day that said it's being reconsidered now again as a developmental brand
it always was a developmental brand.
We knew that.
Like
with
what
superior wrestling intellect, we knew that. But there was this excitement. It's the third brand, especially when they did that whole invasion. And I get you got to sell it to advertisers, the USA, but it's feeling like a developmental brand, which is fine.
It still is. Like it never stopped being that. It's just that the guys that are at all the talent isn't the same.
Yeah.
Karrion Kross still needs some. If he would have debuted on the main roster the way he did in NXT, it might be a different ball game. But to go from that to that, it was like, and then like I said, without Scarlett Bordeaux, his wife, I was like, yes, you're losing this mystique about who this guy's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Who is he supposed to be? Like at one point this is the eater of worlds. What does that even mean? That's not to quote Bray Wyatt.
Wasn't it him?
Yeah, like not to quote Bray Wyatt, but that was the mystique around who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of lost, but they have other plans for him. You got to remember, Bruce Pritchard is back there. He's the king of let's swerve and mystique the whole audience. Let's send them one way so we can pull them back another way. That's what he's always been known for that. That's what he does best. So it's like, look, that guy's in charge of creative, so you can't jump the gun too early.
Yeah.
Because he knows, you know what, if Karrion Kross loses Jeff Hardy, they're gonna be pissed, but they're gonna be too happy to hear Jeff Hardy's music, but then they're gonna be like, it's going to get eyes on Karrion Kross, not only on the main roster, but in NXT, because everybody's gonna be like, wait a minute. Then there's all these reports about NXT frustrated. Yeah, I'm sure they are, because they don't know what's going on. It's not like they have these company-wide meetings. Everybody, just want to give you a heads up, creative. This is what's going to go down. Like they don't know, just like we don't know. So I reports came out not too long after that, like, oh well, everybody like they're doing something. Don't just think he's just losing just because. But Pritchard is telling Vince if he loses, they're gonna think you buried this guy. Vince is like, well, let him, because then they can play off these ideas that people know what's going to happen, and then they can do what they want and use that to a creative standpoint to elevate or whatever the case may be. So I'm not jumping the gun too early. Both of those guys are still young talent in terms of sports entertainment. Take the time. Like we've seen WWE build guys we didn't think they would build to be the stars that they are today, but sometimes it just literally takes time. Either some guys can cut the mustard, some guys can't. Keith Lee and Karrion Kross are two of those guys that I think, once again, they need some seasoning, but that's why they're getting all the experience now, because they need seasoning. There's nothing wrong with that. So
we can't rush people to the top, and rush them to the forefront.
Let's just wait and see. Let's let them get exposure. Let them figure it out. Like I said, losing to Jeff Hardy, come on now, it's no slouch. But then beating Keith Lee. Keith Lee has been built to be formidable. He's not dominant, but he's formidable. So it's a huge win, but like I said, it's just sure. Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah. Let's move on. John Cena, man. Well, I don't know if you saw SmackDown, but
Mhm,
Roman Reigns had a few things to say about John Cena being repetitive
mhm.
that set the world on fire. And of course, WWE Fox edited that out in all the promos. But I think this feud is going to be very interesting. Now, of course, Roman has, thrown the swerve and not accepted the challenge, and he's going to face Finn Balor, I think probably this week or whatever. But John Cena just, he said he was back. He was on Raw after it went off the air. Something, how long he's back, we'll see. But I'm excited. I think that he's somebody that went away long enough and made the fans realize, like, you know what? We really appreciate that guy. He even said, like, y'all usually say I suck, but I know you being a Cena guy, what are you looking forward to? Or do you not have high hopes?
Nah, big man. I mean, big money, John. You know what I mean? It's only going to continue to solidify his legacy.
Yeah.
Only going to elevate Roman. I think Roman was The Rock challenged John Cena to be better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then John Cena returned that favor to Roman Reigns, and he's like, "Yo, you got to be better." He was just hitting below the belt before Roman started to take off, and then now that Roman's like there, like he's there now, like now he can. I watch him trying to return the favor. Like, here we go. Now I get to dig at you because you pushed me before in this space, and now it's my time to show you this is who I am now. This is how far I've come since the last time you forced me to be better than what I was or where I was at the time. So that's been fun. That's a WrestleMania match, waiting to happen. It's Roman has just elevated himself. He's done tremendous. He's come from such a long way. And you're talking about two of the biggest money guys in the business right now. Like I said, I told him that's going to derail any competition you're going to run into because you're not competing with big money John and Roman Reigns right now at the head of the table. So
yeah, definitely. There's reports that WWE's bringing a Queen of the Ring, and I know you're not the biggest fan of the King of the Ring concept in this day and age. It's something that's played out. But how you feel about hearing about a Queen of the Ring as opposed to another evolution too?
I think it's smart and it's innovative because one, the King of the Ring, we've seen it 1,000 times with us, pay-per-views and concepts. And after a while, I was like, why y'all still doing this? Because after a while, it wasn't special anymore. Like they would do the King of the Ring like on Raw or on SmackDown.
Real quick, like, when did it lose its luster for you as a fan?
When they brought it back, like when it stopped being its own pay-per-view.
Okay.
Like at one point, it was called King of the Ring just as a pay-per-view title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was never a huge fan of the tournament, but I didn't like it when they started bringing it back on like just because like when when Booker T won, or when like Sheamus and all them like those random just okay, let's bring up the King of the Ring. Or when Wade Barrett, I never liked it like that. Like stop just randomly bringing it back, and then whoever wins gets called king for the next 2 years. You know what I mean? Because it was just like I just didn't like the format that it was in. Now
you was a fan of the pay-per-view?
I was a fan of the pay-per-view because
did it lose it? Okay, and did it lose its
something?
luster ever?
Yeah, like don't do it on SmackDown. Like, because I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, what? Who? What difference does it make? So but it's never been done for women,
right?
And I'm like, all this, it's perfect for women because one, it's fresh. It's you take an old concept and you bring new life to it. Because now the women, like somebody's gonna want to be crowned the first Queen of the Ring. Yeah. You know what I mean? It gives them, to me, it's a healthy compromise by giving them something special to do that's meaningful without having to revolve around, she wants the title, who's the best. So yeah, like it gives you a chance to really highlight women. Like to me, it's a compromise because you had a Mickie James like, oh well, women's wrestling should be everything. And it's like, well, realistically, Mickie, you're asking for a lot. Well, it was meant to fail. It's like, yeah, but it happened. It was, you got to take baby steps. And I appreciate her approach of trying to build it up, but I just like, look, it's going to be difficult because it's a business at the end of the day. You have to make sure that you put women's wrestling in the best position for it to make money so it can be successful. In any business, your bottom line is always your profit margins. And if those profit margins don't meet the expectations of what's placed in front of it to bring in that, it's going to get cut. That's just like, And I hate the fact that sometimes they're like, oh, well, it's women. No, it's not always about because it's women. It's just financially, tag team wrestling is another thing. Oh, y'all don't appreciate. No, it's not about nobody not appreciating tag team wrestling. It's just business people said financially it doesn't make sense because you have to kick out double of everything and you may not get double the return on what you're putting out there. I'm like, well, that makes sense. In tag team wrestling today, still not that big of a deal. If your favorite tag team does not have a story or a personality, no one's coming to see a global tag team tournament because of tag team wrestling. It's just not. It's not feasible anymore. We have to understand and let these things go. So I think finding legitimate ways to put women in the spotlight for them to be successful, like it's not too long, you know what I mean? It's not gonna be too drawn out, but at the same time, it's the inaugural one, it's the first one. It will be impactful, it will be meaningful because we haven't seen any Queens of the Ring. So like it'll be something special. So it's like you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you know, you can just kind of refashion it. And I think it's important. I think it's a smart idea. I would have never thought about it, but I'm like, oh, that's genius. Why they should have this is a good idea to do this. So like I said, it also gives you a chance to start working, you know, getting some of your younger women's talent, you know, elevated and, you know, in matchups like everybody has different levels of elevation when it comes to professional wrestling. Sometimes being in a match with a legend is that one superstar's elevation. And then for somebody else, elevation may be, okay, fine, main eventing a show. That's your elevation for that character, for that individual. Or for another lady, it may be being in the finals or coming close or having a special type of finish, whether a false finish or a roll up or cheat. That's your, like every individual superstar, male and female, has their own form of, we can't keep looking at one blanket slate. Okay, well, she was in the first match, so that means they buried it. No, she's being elevated because she's never been in the first match ever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think the format of the Queen of the Ring or the King of the Ring format works well for what I'm assuming people are looking for when it comes to, you know, women's wrestling and it being showcased in an important format. So
yeah, and then last but not least, before we get out of here, man, Matt Cardona, he is the new GCW champion. He beat Nick Gage. Nick Gage just made his debut. I can't remember if he got the All Elite tag or not, but what I thought was funny before I get into Matt Cardona, I thought when somebody posted, because you know it was MJF that introduced Nick Gage, and somebody said when your big brother comes to the schoolyard to beat up the bully that's been beating you up, and I was like, that just looked like such an accurate tweet, especially, you know, growing up in school culture, like it just and you got this guy who looks like let's be real. MJF doesn't look like he can beat anybody in a fight, and sure enough doesn't look like he can beat Chris Jericho, but Nick Gage does, you know. Yeah, so but Matt Cardona, you know, comes in there and just goes out there and becomes the, you know, the GCW champion. And there's heat, certified heat. You know, and to the point, you know, DM gets upset and says a few things. But you know, I mean, I wasn't sure. Like, I'm sitting there doing the research. Like, why are people so upset? I was like, oh, okay, the diehard GCW fans, they want to see this. They don't like this idea of this WWE guy coming in.
Cardona is so anti GCW, it's ridiculous.
Right.
and they ran with it, and it's so far away from anything he's accustomed to or ever. I never thought he would even show up in something like this. I had no idea. So to see him when he won and they were throwing drinks at him, he's bleeding, he's got cuts everywhere, and he's trying to celebrate, but he's getting soda and beer and stuff. I was like, wow. Storyline wise, he's so anti GCW, but yet he's like bragging. He's taking that belt, and he one of the funniest things he says, I'm taking this belt to Disney World. Everybody's like spitting up like in their mouths. Like he's just like, it's like everybody loves their Raw independent death match. There's an audience for that. It's a small audience, but they love it. And here comes Pretty Boy Matt Cardona and all his WWE glory, and he's their champion. Oh, they hate it. I'm trying to think of something similar to it, but it's Matt Cardona is anti GCW. He's like sticking it to him. He's giving him the finger, and there's nothing they can do about it. When I say he was rubbing in their faces, and of course beating Nick Gage is their beloved savior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So man, it's I'm glad to see guys like him carving out their own niche and going back to you know, the global wrestling scene, and finding great ways to stay relevant and get paid, and kind of cut their teeth. Like I said, we've seen guys leave 5, 6 years, 10 years, come back like haven't even skipped a beat. So I'm happy for Matt Cardona and also Brian Mize, my guy, and so many other guys that are having the opportunity to still do what they do and get exposure without being left in the dark. Some people never bounce back. They just weren't. To me, that just shows you like you're not who you thought you were. But hey, I'm enjoying the ride. It was rough watching everybody get released, and they're back out here in the wrestling wild. But it's good to see that so many people have landed on their feet and they're doing well. So.
Yeah, that's always good to see. And like I said, I think now, hopefully people can stay safe. But I do think that if we can kind of get moving forward and get back in the swing of things with wrestling, we will start to see people just have this this appreciation, but also the opportunities. Like that's to me when, even though I may not like everything I see on the AEW show, and I know you got your AEW stands out there, and that's cool. I'm not one of them, but I will turn it on, and okay, this is an opportunity. Now, I think AEW Dark is too long, and Dark Elevation, I'm sitting there, it's like, all right, it's too much. So it's like I can't really appreciate seeing some of the lower mid-card talent if they're not in meaningful matches, but when I look at that, so that part's annoying, but at the same time, like, being able to see some of these independents, and now we got so much wrestling at our fingertips, being able to literally go on YouTube. I got to catch up on MLW. I haven't caught that in a few weeks, but I know they just uploaded an MLW Battle Riot show. So I got to catch up on that. And, that's the beauty of 2021 versus a 2001. I was looking at some of the stuff from the Invasion a couple of weeks ago, and it's easy to rebook it and say it was bad and it was trash, but here's the thing: in 2001, that whole summer, we were excited, regardless of how bad the pay-per-view was. We were excited for the fact that we were seeing some WCW people in the ring with WWF people. You remember just hearing Booker T's music for the first time in the WWE TV? It felt weird, it was like, wait a minute, that's WCW music, you know what I mean? So these are the things that like I'm really looking forward to, and I would love to see crossovers. It would be nice to see WWE do crossovers, but from a business standpoint, from a network standpoint, because that's another thing that people don't talk about. You can understand USA not doing business with TNT,
no.
or NBC Universal not doing business with Turner, Time Warner. So I get it. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, man, it's been fun as usual. Like I said, it's a lot going on, man, but it's fun. It's weird. It's like this got this 10-year, kind of like rebirth, this renaissance, I guess, so it's there's so much more to come. It's always plenty for us to talk about. So I'm looking forward to it.
I hope nothing crazy happens. No, I ain't gonna say that. I will. Oh, snap.
Oh, Lord, you drop the mic.
We'll see what crazy happens next week as I go on vacation finally. And would you believe when I tell you I'm not taking a computer?
I need one of those.
Yeah, I tend to take my computer everywhere, but this one, we're going to spend time with the kids and the wife. So I'll probably afterwards be running home and bury myself. But I'm gonna make sure that we do that, and like I said, we're going to have a couple episodes that's dropped so that you, the fans, will not miss this opportunity. But the Real Dwayne Allen, appreciate you as always, my brother, for, coming up and doing this show. Man, season 5, we still in the thick of things. We got a couple more episodes to drop, and then, we'll probably record some soon.
Yeah. No doubt.
But definitely recording a special. But until the next time, folks, he's the Real Dwayne Allen. I'm Brian H. Waters. Too sweet.
Brian Waters. Houston, we have a problem.
Yes!
All right, cool.